Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The honorable to my respected lecturer and to my beloved viewers who's watching this video. Okay, my name is Hegi Nokia Utami and I'm student from Metodologi Studi Islam with my last number ON14, and I'm from TBIGA. Okay, in this today's video presentation, I'm going to map out a highly fundamental and comprehensive conceptual framework in academic work covering the entire curriculum of course Metodologi Studi Islam. Okay. Why is the course is so important? Far too often, people view Islam through a single and narrow lens, merely as a great dogmatic theological doctrine. Okay, however, through Islamic studies methodology, we are challenged to broaden our intellectual horizons. Okay, we learn to examine Islam as objectively, scientifically, and interdisciplinarily, both as sacred divine revelation and as a living socio-cultural phenomenon embedded with human society. Okay. And throughout this presentation, I will systematically dissect 13 core topics that serve as the pillars of Islamic studies. Okay, and I will define them into major segments. Starting the first is with the theological foundations and historical backgrounds, and the next is moving into instruments and models of religious research, and the last is finally we exploring how dynamic Islam thoughts respond to contemporary issues in today's globalized era. Okay, without further ado, let I dive into the very first chapter. Okay, we begin to first chapter. The first chapter is Introduction to Islamic Studies Methodology. Okay, the Introduction to Islamic Studies Methodology. Etymologically, it consists of three concepts. The first is method. Method, which means a way or produce. Okay, method, which means way or produce. Okay, and the second is logi. Okay, logi, it's meaning the science of an Islamic studies. The third is Islamic studies, which refer to academic study of Islam. Okay, therefore, terminologically in this subject is the science of systematic approach used to study Islam scientifically. Okay, and the urgency of this chapter is to train our mind to examine Islam objectively based on scientific, rational, and empirical facts, preventing us from falling into a subjective bias where we merely claim absolute truth for our group without solid academic evidence. Okay, we are moving into second chapter, and the second chapter has a title, The History of the Growth and Development of Islamic Studies in the World. Okay, the academic study of Islam worldwide has undergone a massive transformation across three major historical phases. And the first is classical phase in the Islamic world, which began as informal learning circles of halaqah in major mosque, and eventually evolved into the world's first formal universities such as Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco and Al-Azhar in Egypt, and focusing primarily on Sharia science. Okay, in Sharia science. And the second is the Western or Orientalist phase. And this Western or Orientalist phase is where Western scholars began researching Islam using historical critical methods, in European and American universities. And the third and the last is the contemporary phase, or which is the integration of traditional Islamic knowledge with modern social science and humanities that we study, that like we study today. Okay, the next is third chapter that has the title is Religion in Human Life. Okay, so we want to discuss about religion in human life. Why is that humans, no matter where they live in the world, always seem to need religion? Okay, there are two primary academic approach to answer this question. Okay, and the psychologically humans being are bound by limitations, a concept known as human finitude. Okay, when facing tragedies or existential misery of death, religion steps into provide psychological comfort, inner peace, and a sense of purpose. Okay, meanwhile, sociologically, religion as a form social cohesion. It provides moral frameworks that regulate human behavior, ensuring that community life remains harmonious, orderly, and unfiled. Okay, next chapter is the fifth chapter that we wanna discuss about characteristics and dimension of Islamic teachings. Okay, Islam possess the characteristics of shumuliyah, which means comprehensive. It encompasses all aspects of life from theology, law, politics, and economics to individual morality. And Islam is also characterized by wasatiyah, or which means moderation, rejecting both right wing and left wing extremism. Okay, and these teachings are anchored by three core dimensional foundation that are inconnected. Okay, akidah, the theological system of belief or faith, sharia, the legal system governing rituals and human transactions, and ahlak, the system of ethics, morality, and spiritual purification. Okay, the next chapter is from fifth chapter that want to discuss is Islam as a cultural phenomenon. Okay, here we are taught to separate two culturals, crucial realism, and the first crucial realism is normative Islam. So, what is normative Islam? Normative Islam is which represent the pure divine revelation from Allah through the Quran and authentic Hadith. Okay, it's sacred, absolute, and universal and unchangeable. And the second crucial realism is historical Islam, okay, which refers to the actual practice and cultures produced by Muslim when they interact with their local environments over space and time. Hence, it is flexible and contextual. Okay, for instance, tradition like Mudik is the annual homecoming, yes, and or serving ketupat at Eid in Indonesia, like this. And the religious essence is maintaining family ties and worship, but the expressive form is shaped by local cultural. Okay, the next chapter is sixth chapter. We want to discuss about methods in Islamic studies. Okay. Um, in this chapter, which deals with methods in Islamic studies. Okay, because Islam is a highly complex religion. We cannot fully grasp it through a single disciplinary lens. Instead, we must employ a disciplinary approach. Okay, some of the most frequently used approaches include the theological approach to understand the dogmatic truths of sacred texts, and the sociological approach to observe how social interaction with Muslim community shape their religion expression, and the anthropological approach to examine how local traditions, symbols, and rituals are meaningful interpreted by the local community. Okay, we move to seventh chapter that has the title Research on Religion versus Research on Religious Life. Okay. This is a distinction that often confuses many. Research on religion focuses directly on the realism of doctrines, sacred texts, and theological thought, making it larger normative in nature. An example would be researching on the concept of social justice within Quranic verses. Okay, on the other hand, research on religious life is an empirical social science approach at studies the actual human beings or communities influenced by their religion. An example is examining how zakat management impacts poverty rates in a specific rural village. Okay, we're gonna move to chapter 8. Okay, in here we wanna talk about models of Quranic agencies of tafsir research. Okay, um, model of Quranic exegesis of tafsir research, which is the methodology of studying how the Quranic text is interpreted generally. There are four standard models of of interpretation analyzed by researchers. First is tahlili, or the analytical method, which dissect verses one by one, following the sequential order of the Quranic Musaf, and the second is Ijmali, or which is explain the verses globally and consistently. Okay, and the next third is Mukaram, or the comparative method, which compares similar verses or contrasting opinions among classical and modern commentators. Okay, and the fourth last is Madu'i, or the thematic method, which collects all verse from various chapters that share a single topic, such as human rights in the Quran, and analyzes them comprehensively. The next is ninth chapter. Ninth chapter is models of Hadith research. Okay. Given that hadiths we are normally compiled long after the passing of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and hadith research is absolutely critical to verify their authenticity. Okay, this model of research is divided into two distinct trajectories, and the first of criticism is of sanad, or the chain of narrators. Okay, which evaluates the historical track record of the transmitters to ensure they were honest or adil and possessed excellent memory or debit, and that the chain is unbroken. Second is the criticism of matan, or the on the textual content, and which analyze the text itself to ensure it does not contradict the Quran or sound logic or verified historical facts. There is in the end result categories hadith into Sahih, authentic, Hasan, or good, or Da'if, or weak. Okay, the next chapter is the 10th chapter. It ijtihad as a source and method of Islamic studies. Okay, so while divine revelation cheers with the passing of the prophet Nabi, its new human elements continuously emerge in the modern world, and this is where ijtihad becomes vital. The strenuous utmost intellectual effort by modern world by qualified I'm so sorry it's um utmost intellectual effort by qualified scholars to derive legal rulings for new issues not explicitly stated in the Quran or Hadith. Okay, the method of ijtihad include qiyas or analogical reasoning, such as prohibiting narcotics by drawing an analogy to alcohol because both cause intoxication. Okay, ijma or scholarly consensus, and maslahah mursalah, which prioritize public interest and social welfare. Okay, the next chapter, the 11th chapter is Islam in the era of globalization. Okay, we wanna analyze Islam in the era of globalization. So first of all, globalization is heavily accelerated by internet has completely dismantled geographical borders, and this reality present a double-edged sword for the Muslim world. Okay, and the on one hand, there are challenges such as the influx of aggressive secularism, hyper consumerism, and the potential spread of digital radicalism. Okay, on the other hand, globalization unlocks massive opportunities, and including the ease of borderless digital pricing and as well as the rapid international growth of the global halal industry and halal cosmetic and Islamic bank system. Chapter, the 12th chapter, we wanna talk about dynamic of contemporary Islam. Okay, um, in modern Islamic studies have significantly shifted away from strictly focusing on classical ritualistic jurisprudence. Okay, jurisprudence instead. They now actively address pressing global humanitarian crises. Okay, among these are Eco-Islam, which explores how Islamic theology respond to climate change and environmental preservation. Okay, then there is the discourse on gender, which re-examines religious texts to advocate for the rights and protection and empowerment of women in education and public space. Okay, and lastly, the focus on human right and pluralism examines how to construct a theology of tolerance, so what diverse religious communities can peacefully coexist in a pluralistic society. Okay, the last chapter is 30th chapter. It's religional Islamic studies. Okay, finally. Okay, in this field, the study operates on the premise that geographical location directly influence religion expressions due to local cultural assimilation. Okay, we recognize the Middle Eastern region, which tends to be a more textual, spiritual, and deeply intertwined the political dynamics. Okay, then there is the Western region, where Islam is studied from a minority perspective, dealing with cultural integration and movement against Islamophobia. And closest to home is the Southeast Asia or Nusantara region is renowned for its welcoming, peaceful, and inclusive face of Islam, which is highly adaptive to local custom and tradition. You can do it! Okay, and the conclusion, Islamic studies methodology ultimately reshapes us to individualism who possess inclusive, tolerant, and highly unethical minds, and it teaches us to understanding religion is not about building walls to shoot others out, but about breaking down barriers to bring harmony. Okay, it is a profound, holistic understanding that will truly allow Islam to function as rahmatan lil alamin, a genuine mercy, and a source of a peace to all of humanity. Okay, whenever and wherever we may be. Okay, I highly hope that this presentation video it's not only fulfills the academic requirements for this course, but also serve as a meaningful spark for further academic dialogue. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention, guidance, and time. Wallahu muwafiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Audio Jungle.